We continue now at the top of Daf Chaf Aleph Amid Beis in Meseches Bava Basra. This is Bava Basra Daf 21b. And the previous Amid, the Gemara brought an opinion that if a child is taught something incorrectly, it's very difficult for the child to unlearn that mistake. And the Gemara brings a proof now from a story with Yoav. It says that Yoav killed out all the males of Edom. And David HaMelech said to Yoav, "My time of Vaditachi, why did you do that?" Rashi explains, "My time of Vaditachi shelo haraktos hanakevos. Why did you not kill the females? Why did you only kill the males?" Amar lei, so he said back to him, "Dichsib," because it's written in the pasuk, "Timcha es zochar Amalek." It says that you have to kill the males of Amalek. So Amar lei, so he said back to him, "Va'anon zecher karinan." But the way that we read the pasuk, we don't read it as zochar, we read it as zecher. Amar lei said to him, "Ano zochar akriyon." So he said, "No, I was taught. The way I was taught was to read it zochar, to read that you have to kill out the males of Amalek." And then Azal Shailei the rabbi, it says that Yoav then went and he asked his rabbi. Amar lei said to him, "Hey chakrison." So he said to him, "How did you teach? How did you read this?" Amar lei, he said, "Zecher." He said, "The way that I taught you to read it was zecher," meaning to say that you had made a mistake. The point over here is that Yoav as a child must have made a mistake and he wasn't corrected. The Rebbe taught it the proper way, but he didn't pay careful attention to how Yoav was actually learning it, so he didn't correct him. And so Yoav got angry that he didn't correct him when he was a child. So Shakal Safsir Lamigdale, so he took a sword to kill him. He was going to kill this Rebbe. Amar lei said to him, "Amai, why do you want to kill me?" Amar lei said to him, "Dichsib," because it's written in the pasuk, "Orur osei meleches Hashem Ramiyah." Cursed is the one who is slack in doing Hakadosh Baruch Hu's work. Amar lei said to him, "Shavke lehu gavra delay kambar." Fine, so leave that person, that he should just be cursed. It says in the pasuk cursed. It doesn't say that you're going to kill him. Amar lei said to him, "Ksiv," it's written, "Va'or monea charbo midam." Cursed is the one who keeps back his sword from blood. And Ika Diyamri, there are those that say kadle, that he did indeed kill him. V'Ika Diyamri lo kadle, and there are those that say that he did not kill him. And the Gemara continues, V'yamar Rav, and Rava says, Mikri Yanuka, a school teacher, Shasla, sharecropper, meaning one who plants and takes a certain percentage, Tavcha is a butcher, V'umna, a bloodletter, V'sofer Masa, and the city scribe, Kulon Kim Musrin V'umdininu, they're all like they are warned in terms of having to do a proper job. And Rashi explains, Shasla notea karmo lemechsa, again, he plants the vineyard for half. Umnas make his dam, somebody who's a bloodletter. So for Masa's lavler, that's a scribe. Kimusarin va'omdin damo, it's like they're warned. Shalo yekalkalu, meaning that they shouldn't make any mistakes in the work they're doing. Vim kilkalu, and if they do, masalik luhu below asraisa, it's as if they were already warned that they get removed without officially being warned. Afal pishlo hisrubo kodem lachain, even though there was no official warning, still it's as if they were warned and they can be removed. And the Gemara continues, Klala de Milsa, the general rule is, Kol Pseida de Lohadr, any kind of loss that can't be regained, that can't be gotten back, Musra va'omedhu, so that kind of a loss, it's as if the person is already warned. And Rashi explains, Pseida de Lohadr, a loss that you can't take back, Kagon Elu Mishanisnab Lahabehema, for example, let's say you have a situation of an animal that's in a vela, the animal was made in a vela, or Harag Hamekis, or let's say the bloodletter killed by mistake, Vahasofer, cause of Sefer Torah Betos, or the Sofer wrote the Sefer Torah incorrectly, all of those things are losses, they're mistakes that cannot be corrected, and that's why it's as if the person was already warned. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Huna says, Hai bar mavo, if somebody who lives in an alleyway, De'uki rechaya, he sets up a mill, that's for his livelihood. V'yasa bar mavo chavre, and then another person who lives in the same alley, he comes along, v'kamuki gabe, and he sets up his own mill, also in the same area. Dina hu dema'akev ilave, so the first person is able to stop him. Di'amar le, because he can say to him, Kapasakta le lechiyusa, you're disrupting my livelihood. And the Gemara says, Lema Messiah, let's bring the following support from a brisa. It says, Marchikim mitzudas hadag min hadag, you have to distance the traps for the fish from the fish. Kimole ritzas hadag, the amount that the fish travels. The idea is that if somebody else has already set up his trap, you can't go in the same area. Seems to be the same idea. And the Gemara continues, Vakav, and how much does a fish travel? Amar Rabba bar Rav Huna says, Ad parsa till a parsa. And so the point over here is this brisa seems to be supporting Rav Huna. And the Gemara says, not necessarily. Shani dogam, it's different by fish. The Yahavi Siyara, because they look around. And Rashi explains, Du'uki Rechaya, again, this person from the alley, he set up a mill, Litzchon, in order to grind, Veliskor, and to make money. Marchikin Mitzudas Hadag min Hadag. So the Brisa said, the Brisa that seems to support what Rav Huna said, the Brisa said that you have to distance the trap for the fish from the fish. And Rashi explains, Tzayit Shenosan Ein of Bedag, let's say you have a fisherman, and he sets his eye towards a particular fish, At Shehikar Choro, he knows where the hole of the fish is. Marchikin Shard Sayadin Mitzudas So other fishermen have to get their traps away. This person already has the right. Alma, we see Afagav de lo zochabe, even though he hasn't actually taken possession of the fish. V'lo mata liyade, it hasn't come to his hand. Marchikin misham, still everyone has to distance themselves. Because he can say to them, he's allowed to say that you're disrupting my livelihood. But the Gemara said you can't bring a proof from the case of the fish because shani dagam du yahavi siara. It's different by fish because they look around. Rashi explains, nosnan ayin bahabotam lios noagim loretz lamakom shero sham mizonos. They look around where they are. They always run towards the area where they know there's food. Hilkach, therefore, kevan shehikir zechora. Once this fisherman identified where this fish lives, v'nasan mizonos besoch mali ritzaso, and he put food in the area where the fish travels. Batuach hushiel kedenu. It's certain. He is certain that he's going to capture this fish. It's as if he already has the fish in his possession. So in this case, it's as if the friend is directly damaging him. But over here, when you're talking about regular competition in terms of livelihood, whoever's going to come to me as a customer will come. Whoever goes to you will go to you. So maybe it's not going to be the same problem. And the Gemara continues, Amar le Ravina l'Rava, Ravina said to Rava, Leima Rav Huna d'Amar Reb Yehuda. Let us suggest that Rav Huna follows Reb Yehuda in the following Mishnah. This is a Mishnah from Meseches Babba Basra Daf, as we learned in the Mishnah Babba Basra Daf. Reb Yehuda says, Leicholek chenvani kiloyos ve'egozin latinokos. A chenvani, a storekeeper, should not distribute toasted grain and nuts to the children. Mibnei shamar gilan etzlo, because he's causing them to come accustomed. He's causing them to come specifically to him for the business. V'chachamim atir, and the Chachamim say it's mutter, and so the idea over here is that Rabbi Yehuda essentially is prohibiting this kind of unfair competition. That seems to be the same as what Rav Huna was saying. And the Gemara says, Afilu Teim Rabbanan. You could even say that Rav Huna follows the Rabbanan. Ad kan lo pligi Rabbanan led Rabbi Yehuda hasam. The Rabbanan only argued with Rabbi Yehuda over there, Ela Damar le, because he can say to him, Anokam eflagina amguze. I'm going to give out the walnuts at plug shiyuske. You can give out the almonds. In other words, we can all do similar kinds of things along these lines. So it's not a problem. But over here, Afilu Rabbanan Modu, it could be that over here, even the Rabbanan would admit that you can't set up another mill, because he can say to him, again, you're disrupting my livelihood. And Rashi explains, but over here, this person set up his mill first, this became his business. So this person is coming right into exactly his business. He can say to him, again, you're disrupting my livelihood. And the Gemara continues, Meisvei, we have a question from the following brisa. Osa adam chanus betzad chanusa shel chaver. A person can make a store next to the store of his friend. Umerchatz betzad merchatza shel chaver, and a bathhouse next to the bathhouse of his friend. Ve'eno yachol limchos biyado. He can't protest against him. Memnei sheyachol lomerlo, because he can say to him, Ata osa besoch shelcha, you do what you're doing in your own. V'ani osa besoch sheli, and I'll do what I'm doing in my own property. And the Gemara says, Tanoi, the Gemara says, indeed, it's actually a machlokas Tanoim, because this brisa is saying that a person is not allowed to say that you can't compete with me. Rav Huna is saying a person is allowed to say that you're not allowed to compete with me. And so it's actually a machlokas Tanoim. The Tanya, as we learned in a brisa, Kofin b'nei mavos zeh, the people who live in an alleyway, they can force one another, shelo lahoshe b'neim, not to bring in amongst them, lo chayit v'lo borsiki, not a tailor, not a tanner, v'lo melamed tinokos, and not a school teacher, v'lo echan mibnei bali umnios, and not any kind of a particular kind of professional. However, v'lishcheino eno kofeh, but to his own neighbor, he can't force him not to do that. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, af l'shcheino kofeh. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says even the neighbor they can force not to do that, and so therefore you see here a machlokas whether or not he can prohibit his neighbor from going into a certain kind of business. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel is the one that says that you can force him not to go into that kind of business. So Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, he's along the lines of Rav Huna. And Rashi explains, shelo lahoshev beinei and chayot to borsigi. Again, this is the opinion of the Tanna Kama. They can force not to bring in these professionals. Mimakam acher, it means they can force not to bring them in from somewhere else. Lahasker lo bayis b'mavoi, rent them out some space, a house in the mavoi. V'yesh kan b'nei osumnis, because there's already people here who do that profession, so they can say we don't want to bring anyone from the outside. And Rashi continues, v'leshcheino, according to the Tanna Kama, when it comes to the neighbor, hadar b'mavoi kamoa, the neighbor who lives in the mavoi same as him, eino kofeh, you can't force him, mileired lo oso umnis, to stop him from going into that profession. He's allowed to go into that profession according to the Tanna Kama. However, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel Omer v'chul, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says no, you could force him not to go into the same profession as you. you. For Rav Huna Hu D'Amar Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. And again, Rav Huna follows Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Huna Bereid Rav Yoshua. Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yoshua, says, Pshita li, it's obvious to me, bar mosa achrisi. Let's say you have a resident of a city, and then there's a resident of a different city. He's not the resident here. So motzi ma'akiv, so the resident of the city can stop the non-resident from conducting business in this city. V'shayich bekarga dahacha, but let's say the non-resident, he pays taxes here in this city, so then lo motzi ma'akiv, then he can't be stopped. The resident of the city can't stop him, because as long as this other person is paying taxes, he too is considered to be like a resident. And the Gemara continues, bar mavoa denafshe. Let's say you have a person who lives in this alley, and there's another person who lives in the same alleyway, so then lo motzi ma'akiv, you can't stop him, because he's considered to be a resident. Boy, Rav Huna Bereid Rav Yoshua, but Rav Huna Bereid Rav Yoshua, he does ask the following question. Bar mavoa achrina. Let's say a person from one alleyway with regards to a person from a different alleyway. So here they're in the same city, but just in different alleyways. What would be the halacha there? And the Gemara says, Teiku, the Gemara leaves that as a question. And Rashi explains, Matzi li'akiv, again, he could prevent someone from a different city from conducting business. That's what Rav Huna Bereid Rav Yoshua said. Milasos kanum nusam, he can stop them from doing their profession. Ulahavi kan limchor, to bring over here to sell. V'afilu l'rabbanan da'ami l'shcheino eno kofeo. Now, even according to the Rabbanan who say that to a neighbor, you can't stop him, but here this is not even a resident of the city, so you certainly can stop him. And Rashi continues, V'shayich bekarga dohachana, if the person pays taxes over here, shenosin maskul galaso l'moshel ho'ir azos, he gives his tax to the ruler of this particular city, kebar masa, so then he's considered like a resident of the city, so lo motzi bar masa la'akev olav kol ho'ir. So then he's not able to stop him, because again, you have a situation where he's essentially considered to be a resident. Upshitali, and it's also obvious to me, the bar movi denafshi, let's say they both live in the same alleyway, lo motzi ma'akev es ha'movi milerid l'munaso, he can't stop this person from conducting his business, and that's kirabonon v'lo k'Rav Huna. That's like the Rabbanon and not like Rav Huna. According to Rav Huna, you could stop the person, but according to the Rabbanon, you can't, and that's what we're saying over here. Miui boili, nevertheless, it is a question to me, says Rav Huna Bereid Rav Yoshua, bar mavoa achrina, let's say you have a person from this alley in terms of a person from a different alleyway, what would be the halacha in that case? Mi motzi ma'akev ben hamovoi hazeh lo, is he able to stop him or not? Mi have shcheino ve'eno kofeu, is he considered his neighbor, and therefore he's not allowed to stop him from conducting business? O dilmar, maybe shcheinu da'amar rabbanan, maybe when they say the neighbor, you can't stop the neighbor, but bar mevoa dahu mavoi kami, that's talking about someone who lives in the same alley. Aval bar mevoa achrina, but if he lives in a different alley, lav shcheinu, maybe he's not considered to be a neighbor. And so again, the point over here is that specifically according to the Rabbanan who say that you cannot stop the neighbor from conducting business, is a person considered to be a neighbor if he lives in a different alleyway. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Yosef says, Umodi Rav Huna admits, meaning Rav Huna who says that you're even able to stop somebody who lives in the same mavoi. You can stop him from conducting business, but Rav Huna admits, but Mikri Dardiki, when it comes to a school teacher, the lo matzi ma'akev, you can't stop him from teaching children, the Yamar Mar, because the master said, and Rashi here explains, Umodi Rav Huna da Amar Le'el, meaning Rav Huna said earlier, Bar Mavoa Duke Rechaya V'chulu, that again, if you have somebody from the same alleyway, you're able to stop him. The Islay Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, meaning he holds like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, Modihu b'mikri dardiki, he admits when it comes to a school teacher, the lo matzi ma'akev lebar mavo, you cannot stop the person who lives in the alleyway, milalamid gam hu hatinokas, from him teaching the children, shemitoch kach yizharu b'umnusan, because if you have competition, they'll be careful to do it properly, sheyiru zemizeh, now they're going to be afraid of each other in terms of competition, the yomar mar, because the master said, kina sofrim tar b'chachma, when there's jealousy among the scribes, that increases wisdom. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Chav Beis Amud Aleph.